Hey, Juliet.
Hello, Sammy.
Hey. I'm going to jump straight in. So we normally start these as if we haven't seen each other for ages, and we're like, "Oh, how are you?" But we've just been in a very exciting conversation, haven't we?
Yes.
And then sort of gone, "Oh gosh, this is definitely a 7.5 minutes conversation, and we should have absolutely been recording everything that we've been talking about." So we've hopped on here to talk for 7.5 minutes about what?
Spaces. Yeah. And it's kind of been bubbling up in a lot of our conversations, isn't it? So, and then we just started talking about it. So let's just spew out the thoughts
Yeah.
and the questions.
Great.
So,
Right, well, I'm going to press start on our 7.5 minutes. So spew ahead.
oh
Where do
God,
you want to
that
start?
wasn't a very nice phrase, was
No,
it?
it wasn't, but we're there.
um, Yeah, so a lot of times in our work with clients, whether that's in the legal sector, entertainment, or charity, doesn't matter where the organisation is. Um, some of the conclusions that groups come to is we don't get together enough. There's not enough.
Mm.
Um, there aren't enough spaces for us to come together in conversation and dialogue. And of course, that's our work effectively, is bringing people together in curating a space for people to have the conversations that matter in service of greater awareness of where we are now and where we want to go, and to hopefully create some change. So we're often thinking about, well, what kind of spaces are there in organisations for people to come together? And it just
Mm.
seems really kind of impoverished. It feels really, if it was an ecosystem, it's just lacking diversity. You
Yeah.
might have your team update, and everyone gives an update, and you go around the table and it's really dull. And of course, no one gets any value from it.
Well, and it's performative, and it feels like there might be another agenda going on.
Yeah.
There's
So
all that stuff.
get all that going on. So, what different ways are there of coming together? And so, yeah, that's kind of like the territory of the conversation.
Yeah. Because even as you're talking about that, something that's come to mind for me is of course the lack of those spaces, both physical and created. It um it sort of holds us back from the whole forming, storming, norming thing. Like we're just not coming together enough to get into the habit of disagreeing healthily.
Yes.
And even tiny things, like everywhere seems to have a hot water tap now. So we're not even waiting for the kettle to boil.
Yeah.
We're not even getting the 90 seconds of interaction while the kettle boils
Yeah.
to shoot the breeze with someone or to talk about something actually really fucking important
Yeah.
that just we haven't been together in the right space or place or whatever to do.
That's right.
So
Yes.
that you're impoverished, that deficit of ways of interacting. And of course, then that's amplified with so much remote working.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm feeling like really energized about it and really sad about it at the same
Really
time.
sad. I mean, I remember challenging a marketing director as we were boiling the kettle together in the kitchen,
Yeah.
like at the beginning of my career, and he took the challenge to the board. And I was just at the beginning of my career. It wasn't. Sorry about that.
This is how excited we were to have this conversation. We didn't even put ourselves
Yeah.
on Do Not Disturb.
Exactly, exactly. And so, yeah, and now we're in our little boxes, and with online working
Yes.
and remote working more prevalent since COVID, where's the bump time? Even architects
Yeah.
and spaces, people need spaces to bump into each other, to improvise, to be spontaneous,
Yeah.
to
And
just get a
see each
feel for
other.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, it's controlled by an agenda, a defined
Yeah.
call, a moment in time, and you get straight into the task. Where's the quality of the space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we miss that in society as well, right? And this is where we were starting to go because we've been invited into a couple of communal groups or organizations to help them hold a space. And a couple of that, we're facilitating a few charity boards actually, so that they can have better conversations as a board and practice that, which is fantastic. But so much of that, again, the challenge with a board is they come together to meet. They have even less opportunity to just clash and bump and notice each other and notice what's going on. Um, I can't remember where I was going with this, Juliet, other than, oh, it was
Yeah,
the community piece.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I often sit in my house and just think we're all in our individual boxes. Where are the communal
Yeah.
spaces? The pubs are closing. Where are these places where we come together? Now, even you go to the supermarket and there's an automated till, and you don't even have a chat with anyone there.
Yeah.
So it's this atomization of our society, our organizations. And I wonder what we might learn from some of the experiments and happening in different communities, like in Hastings, we
Mm.
were talking about earlier, where people are coming together and saying, actually, we want to change things. We're not happy as things are. How do we bring back into community ownership some of the buildings in our town,
Yeah.
for the community, for that coming together and living together and experiencing life together. And I wonder what we could learn from some of those and bring into organisations.
Yeah. Well, and we are seeing that with people moving to employee ownership models in some ways, which I think is a fascinating way for a founder or an owner to exit, is actually to say, I don't need all the money right now. And wouldn't it be lovely if this legacy was different and it was community owned and it was owned by those that do the graft?
Yeah.
And so that's really interesting. But unfortunately, in the last budget, there was a tax efficiency put in place that I think makes that a less attractive option. And I appreciate some people would have been, doing it for the wrong reasons. But it's a bit of a shame because I think, moving to a community owned organization that you work in
Yeah.
feels so different as well.
Yeah, and that's often approached as from a legal perspective and
Mm.
a structural perspective. But what does that then imply for how we convene together in spaces?
Yeah.
So if we are employee owned, do we need to come together in different ways?
Mm.
And I'm sure people do attend to that. But I think with our work on cultivating relationships in organisations, I think that's another interesting question. And then once
Yeah.
you get people together in a room with the hope of creating a space for more conversation, as leaders, do we have the skills to facilitate that?
Yeah.
Do we help each other remember how to ask great questions, listen well, to disagree effectively, to
Yeah.
generate ideas?
Well, and share and grow one another. So I remember, one of the big concerns coming out of COVID was leaders saying things like, I'm worried about the younger or the career entry people because, I learned so much of my job just from watching other people do theirs. And so that sense of going, and I did the same, the confidence I have in the way I talk to clients is definitely from overhearing people that I respected have conversations with clients because we were in an open plan office. And you look at, going back to community, you look at the sort of community and social clubs of some of the Welsh mining towns when they were, there's our timer.
Carry
But I'm
on.
going to finish. I'm going to finish this little bit of learning because
Yeah.
I love it. But they were the places where the families gathered. It wasn't just the men. It was a social club, not a working man's club. And in those places, there is so much evidence of that being places where miners would teach each other to read. They would understand and learn about politics and government. It was the places where the women shared food and shared responsibility for the community all being fed. And it was the places where romance was struck up and friendships were struck up and support. And that whole piece around it takes a village, was really alive and well. And of course, that was the people, but it was the community space that everyone was welcome in that enabled it.
Yeah.
And as the mines start to close and the social clubs close and people start to work in different ways, that dies. And so that investment in, even like the male voice choirs, each of these towns would have these beautiful male voice choirs
Yeah.
coming out of the social
Yeah.
clubs. And
Well,
we're
it just
losing
goes.
so much of that.
Well, and it just goes to show the complexity that we're talking about here. When you bring people together in a space, um, unpredictable, unforeseeable,
Yeah.
unplannable outcomes
Magical.
happen, and we will miss that diversity of the ripple effect of all of those consequences and outcomes of people coming
Yeah.
together unless we more intentionally create more spaces.
Yeah.
So I think this is such an interesting thread
Yeah.
for us
I'm
to
really excited
continue.
actually about some of the conversations we're in with organizations who are starting to recognize that and are moving past, well, it's all about communication. It's not all about communication. It's about time together, spending time together well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, lovely!
Oh,
Wow.
very exciting. I'm yeah, be keen to see how this progresses. Well, keen to see, of
Yes.
course, we'll be in it.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And this is a
Okay.
lovely space to share with you.
Oh, and you.
Very
Great.
cheesy.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. See you later.